You know, there's a phenomenon called firefighter arson. It's when a firefighter goes out and starts a fire. That might sound like nonsense, but apparently it's a thing that happens, and it kind of gives them a chance to be hero for the day. And this is still a video about the Prepatch though, because Blizzard have kind of been accused of doing the exact same thing. This Prepatch event seems to have gone down so poorly that people are starting to believe it's almost being done like this on purpose. You know, Blizzard setting fire to their own game so they can rush in, fix it, and claim the glory. Now that's obviously not true, but it has happened so many times in a row that by this stage, I don't think anyone is surprised. And that's a really bad thing. So today we're going to work out just what the hell's going on with this Prepatch. Prepatch events in WoW are never too complicated, but this one is certainly the most simple. 6 quests, with only 4 actual objectives. There are some world quests, a tic-tac-toe minigame, and 18 rares to kill. Now those rares spawn as part of a regular event, so once a rare is up, everyone flies over, zergs down a few mobs, then kills the rare, and that's basically it. Now for doing that, you get an insignia as a reward and a chance at some champion gear. And like always, those insignias can be traded in. Over at the cosmetic vendor for a mount recolor, some new weapon transmogs, and some old classic armor. Or at this other vendor for gear that will see you into midnight. Though there are a few other rewards, like a mount recolor as an achievement for killing every single rare. Now of course, you may look at this and think it all sounds rather inoffensive or maybe a bit normal. But you see, I haven't actually told you how much everything costs. At launch, you are getting 1 insignia from a rare every 10 minutes. A single piece of gear would cost 40 of them. So that's over 400 minutes, most of which would be spent just AFK, waiting. Over 6.5 hours is what that comes out to, for a single piece of gear. That's what it launched with. If you wanted all the cosmetics from the vendor instead, you would need 475 insignias. If you just farm them out this way, it would take 80 hours. Now, I'm being a little unfair there. There's the weekly quests that give you an upfront stack, and world quests that give you more than the rares. But those things are limited, and even if you were to cut that in half from other sources, you'd still be looking at like 40 hours of farming. But even worse, it would actually take you longer than that, because other people can teleport you away. And I'm not kidding, this is actually happening. Blizzard put a portal to Donegal in the zone, but they somehow messed it up where instead of the portal teleporting you, it teleports your target, so you can just yeet someone somewhere else. So obviously, chaos ensued. People were reliving the glory days of griefing, teleporting each other, across the entirety of Azeroth. At least for a while anyway. That sort of thing is usually fixed real quick. But as funny as it is far from the only problem. People are reporting that the world quests don't work if your character has done quests in the Twilight Highlands, and on top of that, Blizzard forgot to disable faction-based tapping in the cross-faction event, and even stranger, they forgot to put a ranged weapon in the loot table. So, sorry hunters. And to top it all off, midnight crafting materials and transmogs are now showing up on the auction house. That obviously shouldn't happen. Now, by Wednesday night, they had already pushed changes. The portal was fixed, obviously. Rares now spawn in every 5 minutes, and they give you 2 to 3 insignias. Gear drops from the rares are now 3 times as likely, and they're not limited to 1 per day per rare. The vendor gear now costs 20, down from 40, and that's why I started off talking about firefighter arson. Those are all good changes, but they shouldn't have been needed, and that's basically why it looks like firefighter arson to people. And I get it. I mean, if you look at the raw maths here, the event is at least now 5 times easier. Blizzard had to change every single number to get it closer to right, and that makes you think, did they even try in the first place? And you know what? Maybe they didn't. Because for basically every recent patch, Blizzard have pushed a reward system that's been undertuned, and then they've waited for feedback to improve it. They, I guess, seem to think that that works well internally. I can't say what they think, but it keeps on happening. And at this stage, I just have to say that it's really quite cowardly. It is the behavior of a team that does not want to take responsibility for getting something right. So they ship it clearly wrong and then just let the live data show them the answer. If you're a good designer, you should be able to hit the mark a lot more close than this. It essentially seems they've learned to use their live service feedback loop as a crutch. even if that is a real shitty experience for actual players who are paying real money and are playing on launch day. Launch day being the big day that Blizzard hypes up and markets for their new patch. So I don't know how many patches in a row I'll have to make basically the same sort of video talking about the same thing, saying there's a new thing in WoW, some of it looks good, but don't play it for at least 2 or 3 days, or maybe a week. Because patch day doesn't actually mean they're launching a patch. It basically means that's the day they're sending you in as a paid tester. And normally I wouldn't say something like that, because it would sound like a conspiracy theory. And to be clear, I don't think this is overtly what they plan for. But by now, it has happened so many times in a row. Though you may have heard the phrase, exploit early, exploit often. If I was to say, recommend you wait a week before you play a new patch, well, who knows, maybe you'd miss the day one exploit or something like that, which can make it feel a bit damned if you do, damned if you don't. This pre-patch event then is the icing on the cake for possibly the most unfinished pre-patch of all time. And it does just make us ask, Blizzard, why did you bother with any of this? Why are Blizzard doing this to themselves, and of course, to us? I mean, if you look at the event, it's thematic enough. The Twilight's Blade are relevant in Midnight, but showing them off now, with almost no context, kind of undercuts their appearance in the early Midnight story. The rewards from the mounts to the gear are also not particularly inspired, and all of this goes down in the Twilight Highlands because, I guess, it's got, Twilight in the name, and it's a convenient enough zone for Blizzard to stick a phase onto. And even if you look at the execution, I mean, the Void Elf camps and NPCs are seemingly just plopped into the area, just willy-nilly. It doesn't feel crafted and polished, which is of course what we should expect from Blizzard. It makes you think, is this all just filler to kill time? And I think it probably is that. Blizzard don't have the time to do this properly, so they phoned it in. Not because they wanted to, but probably because they had to. Instead of something new, they made another rare farm waste of time. That's gameplay that we've been vocal about wanting a break from since Zaralek Cavern pissed us off all the way back in 2023. And here's the thing. We've always had pre-patch events. Some have been well received, like Legion's Invasions and Dragonflight's Primal Storms. But for this one, Blizzard just treated it like a chore. It's like this is their version of just doing the dishes just so you can have them be done. It's clear that no one had the time or the will to make this something worth logging in for. And to be clear, it's not worth logging in for. And that's the exact same vibe that we got, say, flying around some of the Zaralek rares, and to some degree from some of the Koresh world content. Their focus is clearly already on the next expansion, or the next patch, and not necessarily in the stuff that we're about to play very soon. And honestly, with an expansion about to release and a patch due 6 weeks after that, it's kind of hard to blame them. I mean, we've all been there before in our own lives, and that's why I think something probably needs to change. Because at this point, Blizzard needs to be more realistic about what they can actually put their effort into, and what they can actually ship to a good level of quality. Because if they don't do that, we'll have another expansion of Nightfalls, Dastardly Duos, and Radiant Echoes. Those are all things that shipped. But I think everyone would be much happier, Blizzard and probably us, if they cut some of that chaff out and just focused on making better gameplay. Because I actually think that's the problem here. I think they're too busy making random filler stuff to actually make good gameplay, and to focus on the quality of what they deliver. And I don't mean some sweatlord combat, I mean something else to do that isn't an utter chore, like what they've shipped here, or that of course is actually shipped with a pacing and reward system that vaguely makes sense. And while the bugs are frustrating, I don't think that's the main problem. So let me explain. The worst offense here isn't the bugs. It's not that it's unfinished. It's that it doesn't actually respect you as a player. Now that is something Blizzard continually talks about, basically being the pillar of how they make World of Warcraft, that everything they do is for you. If that were true, something of such low quality would not be shipped. Now, Twilight Ascension is very similar to Dragonflight's event, but in a buggier pre-patch and with more waiting. That's an important difference, but it's not the most important one. In this, there's no real reason to farm the mobs. You just sit in one place and you wait for the rares. In Dragonflight's pre-patch, you could farm the mobs. Same with Dragonflight's launch content that was fairly well received, like the Obsidian Citadel and the Cobalt Assembly. Farming mobs may sound boring, and it can be boring, but let me put it another way. In those other systems, players had something they could actually do. They could press buttons on their keyboard and see things happen that mattered, even if only a little. Mobs dying in their screen usually meant they were making progress. That's how it worked in those events. But in this kind of event, it's literally just a waiting game. You're not actually playing a game anymore, you're just engaging with an obvious reward system. Nothing you can do will speed it up, or slow it down, or improve your rewards. It's just show up, wait, tag the mob, that's it. There is no gameplay. And I don't mean when I say there's no gameplay, that there needs to be hard bosses or anything like that. What I'm saying is, there needs to be a game. Hey, maybe the reason they put the tic-tac-toe toy in is because they knew the event has nothing to do in it, and at least tic-tac-toe is a goddamn game, not a waiting simulator. The rather legendary Civilization designer Sid Meier said that a good game is a series of interesting decisions. And I do think that that quote has been quite often misused, but I think that the Dragonflight grinds are a decent example. They were mindless grinds, but you could still play them. You could swap your talents to maximize mob tags or AoE damage. Over time, you get used to routes that matched respawn timers. You could even find groups that were trying to optimize the whole thing. You could engage. All those things are tiny decisions that made up playing a game. This pre-patch event doesn't let you make any decisions. Well, I mean, there's an obvious decision. Are you going to bother with this thing? My personal answer is no. I'm not wasting my time in this shit. It's a complete waste of time. Now, there's lots of stuff in Midnight that looks fantastic, that I am really excited for. But this event? No, this is not it. And Blizzard, if you're going to market something as a big event, a big patch, if you're going to have like literal, marketing events like the one that I believe they're doing the day that this video posts, or maybe the day before this video posts, if you're doing things like that, and all your marketing is pointing people into this experience, that's just not good, guys. Just imagine for a second that a player listens to what all those Blizzard bigwigs say, right? About caring about the players, all those things, which I'm sure they actually do. But imagine if somebody listens to that, takes it seriously, logs in, and then finds this event. Are those words going to feel true? Will that make Blizzard's marketing credible? Or will it make it feel like a bit of a weird joke? And it's not just this. Take the revamped new player experience. There's loads of good stuff in it, but you know the whole really cool talking point about how as you're leveling up in Dragonflight, you would finish the regular campaign and then be able to go and do the raid in story mode and play through all the patches? Well, it turns out queuing for Vault of the Incarnates is broken, and it's been broken for weeks, which means the new player experience, that whole leveling process that's supposed to be the one nice cohesive story, it's broken. Again, the quality of delivery actually matters. You have real customers, and while there's so much in Midnight that looks great, that I'm really excited for, that I know looks really good quality, that we have to go through this bit first just kind of sucks. I think it's bad for the health of the game, and we can't have another expansion load of busted day one patch experiences. Blizzard, we just can't do it. It will hurt you. You've already lost a lot of credibility through the War Within, and you can't let that keep on going through Midnight. That's basically all I've got to say in this one. Do you know what? If you actually want some really dope lore, listen to this video next. It's about a whole bunch of cool stuff that's being tackled in and around Midnight, and it'll be a good palate cleanser.